It's the knowing that I can access things like fire that come with consequences and power, and that by me being a witch, I can channel that, I can hold that, and I understand the power and the responsibility behind that.
Whether you're afraid of the destructive forces of fire or in awe of its creative aspect, or vice versa, join us as we explore our cultural, witchy, and individual associations with fire. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
Races,
and backgrounds.
with a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true. Our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome to Witchy Wit podcast episode 23.
Fire! I am so excited
Me too.
for our discussion.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to hold my horses, or hold my flames. And before we get started, I would love to do a check-in about what's going on outside our witchy worlds.
So, so we're talking about fire today, but I'm being inundated right now with water. I just thought it was really kind of funny how I thought about this morning. I had a leak under my sink last night, and I spent 15, 20 minutes mopping it up, pulling stuff out, mopping it up, drying everything down, and then trying to find where the leak was. I still haven't found it, but it's not leaking now, so I'm not sure what to do about that. And then I was getting ready to walk the dog, and the heavens opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been a really rainy period. We've gotten more rain this year than I think we've gotten in the past couple of years put together so far, and it's only August now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought it was kind of interesting that as we're thinking about fire, the only thing that has been on my mind for the past 12 hours has been water in various forms.
I was wondering if, when you were saying that, I was like, should we switch that? But so there,
No, we'll just keep going with fire. Maybe,
we'll see how
we'll see.
the elements feel about that.
We'll see. That's right. We'll keep continue to negotiate this. But then I put on a shirt. I had on a shirt, and then it got wet because we went outside to walk, and I got wet, and I came back in and put on a new shirt, and it's from my favorite post-hardcore punk band, AFI, and AFI stands for A Fire Inside. So I'm wearing a shirt about fire, kind of, sort of. Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. This is their side gig, which is Black Audio. Never mind. Okay.
It's still connected.
It's the A Fire Inside guys. So anyway, yeah, that's my check.
We're witches. We can exist.
We can make it. That's
right. We can make the
on different planes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's kind of fiery when you say. I mean,
yeah.
just not the right colors.
Anyway. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. What about with you? What's going on?
So I'm going to sound a little bit elitist, but just bear with me because.
Okay. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So I heard this Chinese proverb. Anyways, in one of the podcasts that I listened to, somebody referenced this Chinese proverb, and it's been like blowing my mind. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read it really quickly. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So I heard that just in passing as I was listening to a podcast. And the podcast wasn't even about proverbs. They just referenced it. And it's really got me thinking about the power of just starting.
Right.
Just the power of beginning. And I've been going down some rabbit holes on myself because, not in a negative way. I don't think that I'm like super genius level smart. I think some people are much smarter than me. What I do have is I am dedicated. Like I will stick with something, and I'm also a starter.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I don't get to positions of leadership because I'm some sort of genius or super talented. not that I'm not talented, not that I'm not smart. I'm not being negative against myself. But I'm trying to make the point that the one thing that I can bring to the table is I'm willing to start. I'm willing to get started, and I'm willing to stick with it. And that proverb was really making me think about the power of just starting. And like the moment that I called you with the like in the HEB, the grocery store parking lot, and was like, you don't gotta, but like, do you think you might want to possibly someday consider maybe doing a podcast? You know, like we just started, and I am so grateful. And the other things in my life that like, I just like hand balancing is so freaking hard, oh my gosh. But I started. And now, you know, 3 years later, I'm like, thank goodness I started 3 years ago, because I am so glad I'm not there. You know, and the same thing with like my dance practice. And like now being where I am with priestessing and looking back at everything, you know, and it was just like, just starting each step. And so I'm just feeling a lot of wisdom and power in this concept of just starting.
That's a brilliant way to put that. And well, so just so you know, I think you might have been reinforced with that, because I posted that on my Facebook maybe about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Did you really?
I'm pretty sure I did. I know I was thinking about it, so I think I did.
Okay.
Because I just thought I love that sentiment and that idea that, yeah, we maybe shoulda, coulda done it then, but you know what? Now is now, and now is a good time to do it. I was thinking of it more as in, because of my age, and we were talking about like the beauty of seeing some of the younger women not have to go through the crap that I went through. And so, I'm at a certain stage, and maybe if I'd made other choices 20 years ago, I would have been further along or not, who knows? But the only thing I have control over right now is now. And so if I didn't plant that tree then, I can plant the tree now. And then 20 years from now, I can say, I am so glad I planted that fucking tree. You know, like you said, starting your hand balances. And I mean, it's just amazing that we're given an opportunity every moment to like totally go in a different direction.
I love that. I love thinking like, well, it would have been nice if I would have done that 20 years ago. But, and then I think that there's that impulse to then not. So like, what a wonderful reminder to like, okay, well, I didn't do it then, so like, let's do it now.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Exactly. So yay.
I do want to point out that we just talked about water and earth.
All right. Yes. So we've just got to slide some air in there, and then
we'll see if that pops up.
Oh yeah,
sometime between before the end of our podcast recording.
Exactly.
I am thrilled that we're gonna. You might say I'm burning with passion.
Oh, you're just a flame.
Welcome to the first of the 4 installments of our Element series. So one of the things I wanted to start off with was saying is that we are coming at this from our personal associations with fire, some of which are more universal within the witchy world, and some of which are not.
That's right. Yeah. But that's the beauty. And one of the things I like about the witchy world, there are some traditions in which things are very, very much not cast in stone, but they have, a lot of strong traditions and conventions. And then there's other traditions that are closer to ours, where things are pretty much more eclectic and also based on individual intuition and individual associations and what you can bring to the table. And I think that that's a richness that I don't think we can ever really reflect in a 50-minute podcast. But if people want to explore that, they just type in fire and witch and see all the wealth of associations that'll come up.
So I am more of a elemental witch. I feel more drawn to the elements than a lot of like goddess and myth. So the elements are really important to me in that way.
I agree. I feel the same. I am. It's so funny because we talked about myth a few episodes ago, quite a few. But for me, the elements are mythic, and so there's a lot of in every tradition there's origin stories, and to me the origin stories that really connect with me have to do with water creating the earth or sweeping over and fire doing that kind of stuff, and fire as I forget what the term, but as beings. There's a specific term for like an embodiment or something where the element is a god or a goddess or something like that, and those are the ones that truly capture my imagination.
So let's talk a little bit about the element of fire in our in our magical practice and in our daily life.
Oh, okay.
I'm so excited. I feel a little bit like I should, like, I don't know where to begin, but maybe we should listen to our our check-in about just the beginning.
Yeah, this beginning, exactly.
It feels so on a mythic scale. It feels huge. So
like, how can you? It's I love how you continue to say the how do you eat an elephant?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that one bite at a time. So we're kind of doing that. I think one of the things I'd like to start with is before we talk about what it means to us is, fire has this, even though we talk about witchy associations with fire and witchy uses of fire. I mean, fire is a universal, it's a constant, right? And you see this cross cultures and so many of these cultures have imagery and verbiage and associations with fire. And to me, I think there's two ends of the spectrum. There's a spectrum, right? And so we have the hearth and the comfort of fire, knowing that your family will be warm and you'll be able to cook your food. And then there's like the destructiveness of fire, and it's all the same thing, but it can be used in so many different. It can manifest in so many different ways and be used in so many different ways.
For me personally, fire is the element out of all of the elements that most drastically embodies that. For me, each element does have a creation and destruction part, but fire is the most the most intense on both sides.
Oh yeah, totally. And so one of the things that we see so much is like that idea of the forest fire. Well, and I think this is going to actually take us into our the next part of our discussion. The forest fire as this horrible thing that's burning up trees and burning up forests and burning up, maybe catching animals and things in the flames that if they can't outrun it. And so this huge aspect of destruction and this huge power, this force of destruction. But even in that destruction, there is I think with pine trees, the only way that a pine cone can actually sprout, the seed can actually come out of the pine cone. This is so not like I know nothing about this stuff, but this is one thing I do know. But I know I'm not using all the right terms. It has to be heated up to a certain temperature, and that's the only way you can get a new pine tree. So
magical.
Forest fire has to take place for that pine tree to continue to grow new trees.
Science is witchy.
Science as fuck.
Witchy as fuck. Wow.
Wow. Yes, indeed. So there's that element of, we'll talk more about this maybe, but the element of creation and rebirth.
Mm-hmm. I'm reminded of the time years ago whenever the retreat center we frequently went to burned. We had a wildfire in a neighboring town, and seeing that happen, and then having that witchy, that spiritual connection to that area. And then just this past December, I drove out to that area.
Did you?
Yeah, to go to a really small little gathering with a couple witches with my sister, and seeing the area where the wildfires had gone, and then seeing the rebirth, and simultaneously holding that grief and awe, and then also holding hope and awe in a different way.
That's fire.
Isn't
it fire?
Felt so fiery.
Yeah. I mean, it's so fun. I mean, the power can be used in the power manifests in so many different ways, and we can use it in so many different ways. But one of the things that I think is so important to recognize is that we use it, but we can't control it. It's a power that we can maybe tap into, hopefully safely, for a period of time. And if we're not careful, in fact, I'll tell this quick story. So one of the places that we meet, we used to have a lot of candles, and we have a lot of regulations. But each one of those regulations has blood on it, right?
Yeah. Sometimes literal.
Yeah. So one time we were doing something, and one of the gals in our group was priestessing. One of the priestesses, maybe not a gal, priestesses. She was doing something with the fire, and of course knocked the candle over, and just set the carpet on fire. And they still let us come there. They're such sweet.
They're so nice.
Yes, they are.
So
yes,
nice.
yeah. But yeah. So that whole that 1 minute it's it's charging us, it's supporting us, it's empowering us, and the next is holy fuck, we're burning the place down. You know, so it's again, and it just that fast. It can switch from one aspect of fire to another aspect of fire.
How humbling.
Very,
you know, in a world where I feel like we are so sanitized, where I don't have to light a fire to cook my dinner or warm my home. You know, I can get on my Bluetooth connected app to set my thermostat, you know, or pop it into my microwave. How humbling to be reminded of, like, oh, no. You know, sometimes I feel like I get fire saying that to me, like, no.
Nice try, my sweet. Yeah. And all of the elements. And that's why, and that's one of the reasons I'm drawn to that power, because it's present. It might be mythical and magical, etc., but it's also right here, right now. And it can, like, it can fuck you up.
I like to think about the fact that fire is the only element that has to be fed.
Wow. I never thought of that.
I think it's really interesting to think about that. And so to me, it feels like an offering, like a sacrifice, an offering whenever I'm feeding the fire.
Of course, if you don't feed it the way it likes, it will feed itself.
Yes.
So it has to be fed, but it doesn't have to be you doing the feeding. Wow. I never thought about that. That's amazing. Yeah. And that's a part of, like you say, it's a sacrifice. It's part of the worship, isn't it? You know, just giving it a little bit more so it can get, or it can grow a little bit, or it can grow a lot.
Yes.
I remember when we had a guest priestess coming in. I don't know if you were there, and we were doing alcohol fires. So she thought, oh, we need to make this a little bit higher. Well, you don't actually feed an alcohol fire while it's still lit. Or you can, but you have to be super careful. Anyway, so she poured more alcohol in it, and I think it, like, took off her eyebrows. It was like, whoosh. And I remember we were just kind of walking, like, she was the only one in the room, I think. I think we were walking by, and all of a sudden we just saw, like, wow. And of course, one of our group, who is very much into fire, was like, oh, that's fabulous. So if you're okay, so let's talk really briefly. Astrologically, there are signs that are associated with fire, and Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. And this person that we're talking about is a Leo. Oh. And so, you know, and she was like, oh, that's fabulous. Like,
I mean, it is. It's also like, but also like, whoa.
But people who are like into, and we call them like pyros jokingly, but they're not necessarily pyromaniacs. But people who are into fire, it doesn't matter. Destructive, warming, comforting. It's like fire, you know. And it's so. I think it's just it nourishes their actual eyes to see it, you know. So.
I also associate fire with the sun. So aside from just, like, not just, but flames, like in candles or cauldrons or my fireplace or my fire pit, I also associate it with the sun, lightning.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I guess to me, lightning is like air, fire, and water. Well, it's air and fire in water.
In the water, yeah. Which, okay, like, as people who love the elements, I'm like, this is so great, you know.
I have a new weather app on my phone, and it tells you when there's lightning nearby. Yeah.
So most people like, oh no, and they like run and hide in a room, and you and I are like standing outside.
Like where?
Like where? I want to see it. The wind is blowing. There's air. You know, the rain is coming down. Yeah. There's lightning. Yes.
Our clothes being streamed behind us. And we're like, yes.
Barefoot on the ground. Yeah. There's earth. But that does bring up a good point, though. One of the things that I love that you talk about when we do talk about the elements or do elemental work is that even if we focus on one, they're all there. They are. We cannot separate them from each other.
And like you say, it's kind of like the idea of, you know, if with a jewel you have different facets and one catches the light at that moment, and that's what we're focused on, but they're all there and they can't exist by themselves, you know. So as we talk more, you'll get to hear about fire and water and that thing. So
okay, here's me admitting some of my issues around magic practices. Okay. So in ritual space, fire is oftentimes represented by the ritual sword or the athame, depending on how you identify it. But in tarot, fire is the wand. Yeah. And I still get so tripped up on that. And I feel like as a do the full witch. I should, it should be like bam, bam. But for me, I'm constantly getting those mixed up. And so then I have to do like, I'm very visual. So then I picture a wand shooting fire out of the end.
Oh, yes.
Like very Harry Potter-esque. And that's how I try to remember that the wand is fire in tarot.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I guess I just think, yeah. And I guess because I think I was doing, no, I know for a fact I was doing tarot before I started doing witchy stuff.
Tarot is witchy stuff to me. But...
I mean, thank you. But I mean, before I self-designated, claimed being a witch.
It was your gateway drug.
It was like,
I'm not a witch, but I'll just totally do this tarot. That's fine.
And and I'm gonna go hug a tree, and I'm gonna dance in the thunderstorm.
Sure,
but I'm anyway. So I don't have that problem. But if we went into a regular Wiccan circle where they do that, that would just totally screw me up. It's like, what? What's the? Because to me, the athame would be like air and a sword, right? So anyway,
I actually don't have a athame.
That's not our truth. Yeah, no.
I guess I'm realizing
Yeah, that's not our truth. We don't do that.
I don't really feel called to having one.
I mean, well, because the athame is penile, right?
Right.
So if then you have your cauldron, and that's where we get into the polarity and stuff. And because so much of our work is in a Dianic circle, even though we're elementals, those are aspects that we don't play with that much. So I mean, though, if you want to play with a penis.
Right.
No judgment here. I'm just saying.
Consensual, like do it.
That's right. That's not what we do in circle.
But there is something witchy as fuck about being when we are in circle. I know I've been in circle with you in another circle where we've seen. Like I'm right now. I'm picturing her with this long black hair, and she holds up this giant sword, and then she like walks around our and it's like a huge circle with over 100 people, and I'm just like, damn.
I want some of that.
Wow, that is so powerful looking. I get it. It's very visual, very awesome.
Very, and so let's really the visuals also of fire. I mean, this is and this is with any of the elements. Just the way it looks, and the variety, the different colors. How when you throw certain things in there
from certain safe distances. Go listen to our When Witch Shit Goes Wrong episode if you don't know what we're talking about.
But how you can stare at it for hours and it will never ever look the exact same way for any more than a second or two, right?
So here's a side tangent. I don't know that we'll ever know the answer to this, but I have a theory that the way that people are so, how like if you're in a room and you turn on a TV, even if it's off to the side, people just like look at it and it affects the energy because people are so drawn to just looking at it, even if I'm not interested.
Right, yes.
Like it's a show I don't like or something. Like people just naturally turn to it. I wonder if there's some connection to fire. Like us as like back in cave people times and how important, like how we were drawn to the fire, how important it was.
That makes so much sense.
I'm just guessing. Yeah, like I have nothing to back. I have nothing to back it up. I just wonder.
That makes so much. I never thought about that, but that makes so much sense. That energetically, our bodies are. It's like sunflowers. They're chasing the sun.
Oh yeah.
Our bodies are kind of conditioned to go towards that energy that is the fire, but it's not. It's a television.
Yeah.
But there's parts of it. It gives off heat. It does spark. There's there's electromagnetic impulses. So that, and we don't know the difference. But our bodies are drawn to something that's like that, which would be fire in normal times. But it's a television today. Wow, thank you for that insight.
Also, thank you for the image. I'm just still loving the image of the sunflowers turning towards the sun. That's super fiery.
Yeah, totally.
Look how the earth worships fire in that way.
Exactly.
I could just sit there and think of... These are those moments when I'm like, I'm such a witch. When I could just sit there and, like, let's just ponder sunflowers. Worshipping the sun.
And just follow the sun. Let's just go find a sunflower field, sit in it, and just watch the sunflowers. There's a retreat. That's a retreat activity, isn't it?
That would be such a good retreat activity. Oh my gosh, let's do it.
Pack a sandwich, sit there all day. It's a great thing.
Sunflower meditation. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, what about fire as creative and destructive? I know we've talked about it some.
So, there is fire in nature, and then there's how we use that that imagery and that understanding. So, one of the magical beasts that are associated with fire is the phoenix. right? And the idea being that from its ashes it arises, and so from the shittiest, most difficult, most painful stuff, you can emerge anew. And so that's one of the things that we tap into. But the fire in the real world, or the fire in the physical world, is that, I mean, I mentioned the pine cone, but the idea that people use fire to clear fields and to allow new things to grow. And when it burns trees, it actually creates this powerful kind of fertilizer for the next generation, right? For the so it's a powerful magical force for creation, for rebirth and destruction at the exact same time. That's it. That's the powerful part of it. It's not like, okay, now I'm going to switch gears and do this. No, while I'm burning the shit out of stuff, I'm also laying the groundwork for the new stuff to grow.
I love so especially this past year, I love that we've done so much witchy stuff at home because of Zoom. I don't love it, but what I love about it is that I've used my fire pit a lot more.
Me too.
You made one?
I made one.
But I took the ashes from my fire pit, which I did a lot of magic around and in and by, and then I took those ashes and I put them in our garden.
Oh,
so
my
now,
gosh.
So now, and I'm sure my partner, who is not magical, I think he's magical, but whatever. He's like, look at this tomato, it's so great. And I'm like, witchy tomato. I
was like, it's like Franken tomato. It's like, okay, you're putting all this stuff in there. Make me say more. So it's all of these things that are charged with all of those magical rituals that we did. And who knows what we were doing?
Right, I know.
But it's in those ashes,
and I trust the earth to transform it and hold
it. To make it what it needs, and what those plants need. And those plants are like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I like to think so. They're like, yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
I do like using fire as a way of transforming or like sacrificing too. So like burning things in and using those. You can buy them at Magic 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 shops. Those
flame
paper flame where you just like I don't know what they're called. But like you light them on fire, they instantly combust 100%. So I love using those. I love using like the Cremora things, like another. You have to be careful with it, but I love using that. I love using smoke for cleansing or charging. So like whatever I burned or put into the fire, then holding something in that smoke and over the flame to heat it and charge it.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more, because one of the things we use fire a lot. So you mentioned the spark paper or whatever that's called. I don't even know. I don't think that's the right term.
Flash paper.
Flash paper. That's it. Flash paper.
Spark paper. Burn paper. Something paper.
We're getting there. Exactly. And that idea. So one of the things that we do a lot, and we'll take that and we'll write in something that either we want to further take into ourselves, we want to charge and empower, or we'll write something that we want to banish. And so the fire can, like I said, the fire can do both of those, right? And I guess you could write the same, different things on the same paper, and it'll do it because fire knows. And then we'll set it on fire, and that's, at one point we were kind of doing it a lot, and it's like kind of like, okay, enough of this already. But even so, that's a magical moment to me when you're, first of all, you're holding the paper and you say, like, should I keep holding it or should I let it go?
Yeah, I've had those moments. It's like, I mean, I know I thought this was like,
yeah, but you're watching your desires or your needs or your fears or whatever go up in flames. And you can say, one might say, that's just words on a piece of paper. And it is. But that moment in time for me, I can almost feel that flame in me in that area. So if I'm something about shame or guilt, I can feel for a moment free of that shame or guilt because I watched it go up in flames. And then of course my job, like you said in your check-in, my job is then to continue that and to work on that. But for a moment, I'm free.
And I do feel a sort of binding to that. Like if I'm gonna do this, and it's one thing to say it in my head, it's one thing to say it to a friend, it's one thing to say it to a loved one or journal about it. But man, if I if I start interacting with the elements, I better follow through because there's consequences, you know?
Exactly. You gave it to fire.
Oof, I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. I'm like, ah.
I was like, bitch.
Yeah.
You doing that this week? Oh, next week? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's true. You're not promising. You're promising into something that's so beyond us. It's hard for. All we can imagine is that little bit of it that we see when we, light a match or whatever, or light a candle. But it's so much more huge than that, and you've given a promise to that.
It feels really heavy, like in both a scary but also like a very powerful, real way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, scary because it's like, okay, this is what I said. Now let's do this, and then scary because you're kind of free to do it. I mean I am free to do it because I have the power of fire to help me do that. So.
Oh, I love the way you said that.
Mm-hmm. Not that I referenced.
Oh, yeah. no, like I have that too, but like that fire, I have the power, like fire helps me to do that, and that's what it really feels like to me is like beseeching and to asking and to like I have like I'm so body oriented. I have the image of like me like on my knees bending over like asking,
praying, begging, imploring.
Imploring, thank you.
And there's also, and I don't know if you can do this in traditional religions, but you can do this, for me, I can do this in witchiness, is that I'm asking, but I'm also kind of demanding.
Yeah.
And fire's like, okay, you said you want this, here you go. And so it's not, fire is so beyond me. Oh, I can ask. No, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to use the power of fire to do this. It's like, there's plenty of me. Go ahead, but you better do it now. So there's a power that I don't necessarily sense in a lot of the prayers in some more traditional areas that I feel I can just tap into.
I love that, and I for me, that is, I'm sure we'll do another episode on this someday. The difference between prayer and magic is that directiveness. And it's the knowing that I can access things like fire that come with consequences and power. And that by me being a witch, I can channel that, I can hold that, and I understand the power and the responsibility behind that.
I didn't want to interrupt you with my squeak.
No, squeak!
Yes! That is exactly it. I'm going to take this little bit and just make a loop and just like play you all night while I'm sleeping. That is it perfectly. I love that. Thank you. That's the way. It's certainly that way for me. And so one of the things I'd like to continue with is just how do we do this individually and maybe in our circle. So we mentioned the fact that we use it for workings in our circle, workings in which we're doing some personal development, some working with our potential, and we can use it to banish things that we don't want, that we're trying to work on in ourselves, to charge and support. And often we'll do that at the end of a working. We'll sing and dance and use that raise energy. And to me, that energy is often so fiery. And sometimes we're actually dancing around like some candle, if we're indoors, dancing around some candles. Hopefully not with swirly whirly skirts.
I do love it though. Whenever I feel like we leveled up as a circle when people started bringing their fire pit to ritual so that we could, and like so this truck shows up and then we like carry the fire pit down and put it down in the courtyard area.
like serious. We're not playing with these little candles. We're dancing around a fire tonight, girls. Yes. So and then so that's some of the things. I mean, is there anything that you'd like to add in terms of what our group does?
I also like using fire as a way of sending something out into the world. Because it burns and then the smoke takes it up, I see it going.
And some little ashes or
I like that,
whatever.
Like leaves. They remind me of leaves, like blowing them in,
Yeah, no, that's so powerful. And so I mentioned doing our personal work, but often we'll do work for the world. Where we're making magic to like heal divisions or things like that. And so being able to see how it's going out from us and connecting with, I guess, with the air. There we go. There's the other one that we can talk about. So, you know, being taken by the air out into the rest of the world is also incredibly a powerful image for me. And I can feel that invocation actually happening in my body.
As a very body oriented witch, I love embodying fire by snapping my fingers or rubbing my hands together. Like right now I feel the heat or the and like feeling the heat that I generate inside of me and pulling it out into the world. I love that. I love dancing like a flame.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. And when you start going through menopause, you'll be doing that a lot.
I'm imagining
your head will feel like
pale fire. I feel you, fire.
Oh my God, your head will feel like the literally like the candle, like the flame at the top, and the rest of your body's like melting, and your head's on fire, and you'll go to like the HEB and stick your head in the ice cream cabinet. Yeah. Anyway, but that'll probably get cut.
Witchiness through the lifetime.
That's exactly. But personally, one of the things I love. I do, you know, some candle magic. You can see some candles laying around here. I am very visually oriented, and I love pictures of fire. And sometimes if I'm doing something where I really want to do a lot of fire, particularly when I'm by myself, because I won't have my sisters to help me, raise energy. It's just going to be me. I will, get pictures from the internet or whatever and download those, and then I'll just cover my altar with pictures of fire and candles, obviously, hopefully not setting the pictures on fire, and work with that. And that I think is very stimulating to me. Something else I use essential oils a lot, as you know, and there's oils that are associated with fire, like black pepper, cinnamon. Cinnamon is a very hot oil.
Wow.
Yeah, peppermint, things like that are really peppermint's actually hot and cold, but we can talk about that another time. And so I will either diffuse it, or I'll like kind of soak it into my skin and use that to kind of help me to get into the physical space where I'm there with fire.
I think that's so cool. I like, as somebody that I don't have like an essential oil routine in my ritual or practice, I love coming over here. Like, I walked into the room and I was like, what is this? This is so good.
I'm so glad.
Because you have it diffusing right now.
Yes,
it's so good.
Since we were talking about fire, I'm diffusing cinnamon, peppermint, and there's one other thing and I can't remember. Oh, black pepper. So good. Yes.
I love that. And I think you bring up a really great point, in that this is also about ritual facilitation, is remembering that just because it's not my go-to way of accessing that element or whatever it is that we're doing, that like other practices are not only valid but enriching to me. And so like by getting to experience like your essential oil diffusing, I'm just like, I'm richer for it.
And I know you facilitated, you priestessed a Beltane ritual last year. I think it might have been our first Zoom, really like official Zoom ritual.
It was the first one we planned. We did online, or we had planned online. Like it was our first one over Zoom.
That we knew yeah. And what I loved about it was, because we were all home, we could all be by our fire source.
It was so cool.
It was, yes.
We would never have done that.
Yes. And was it you or your sister that did your fire?
It was that? Okay. It was like, can we just say that? Tell the story real quick. So in our ritual, it was Beltane and it was fire. So everyone built their own Beltane fire, whether it be in their fireplace or a lot of people did it in their backyards around the fire pit, or a candle, or in their own mind, like however they wanted to. And so my sister, we wanted like a central image in the Zoom.
Oh, right. That's right. Yes.
So that during the workings, we had one flame that like was kind of our central flame, that all of our flames were in a web connected to that central flame. And so she agreed to like hold that flame as a portal. And she it didn't get out of control.
Okay.
But it was like,
it was huge.
She was supposed to build it and then do some other things, and the fire got so big, it was so intense that she couldn't leave it, and she ended up only having to only dedicate herself to tending that fire.
Did she have overhanging trees by any chance? Or
no, she loves fire. So
okay,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I mean, it was just like I think she had wanted, the fire of a certain size,
Mm-hmm.
and then she just she allowed herself to just like have so much fun and just like really melt into it,
Yeah. Wow. Yes.
So we all are like watching this fire. We're like, damn. And I have like FOMO of like I want to be over there with that fire. Like my fire's all reasonable and magical and wonderful and good. But I'm like,
I know. It was like, wow, damn. Yeah. No, that was a fire. You want a fire?
Yeah,
That's a fire.
That was a fire.
It was. I mean, I know she did, but it was almost like she took. What's the stuff that people do when they're doing a backyard barbecue with the briquettes? That stuff they squirt on it.
The lighter fluid.
Yeah, lighter fluid. Yeah, and it was almost like she did that because it was like, whoosh, and it was so big it didn't fit on the screen.
It did not fit on the screen.
We just saw like the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, and I was actually a little concerned about whatever she was like her laptop or whatever because I was thinking that looks kind of hot.
Right. Zoom witch problems, right? Try explaining that to work. I don't have my laptop. It melted in ritual last night.
In my bonfire. Oh my gosh!
I do wonder though, like about what the neighbors think.
Yeah.
Because over Zoom, I just gave it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I gave up. I gave up. Wonder, like before, I would be out there and I would just try to like position myself in a certain place so that to have my fire. But I just had to. I was like, I'm just gonna have to let that go.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because on one side, I just kind of turned my back because I just didn't want to start up any conversation. And so, but the rest of it, like I'm drumming, I'm singing, and dancing around the whole bit. And I'm sure they were wondering. Well, they probably weren't wondering because I think it was pretty clear what I was doing.
Right. I think they were like, "That's what that is."
Okay.
Things make more sense now.
That explains a lot.
You were right, Jane. You were right.
Yeah, I owe you a dinner. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. But what I loved about it was, like you said, our fires were kind of energetically linked. So I'm thinking my fire was going, oh, okay. my little, I don't think it was embers yet, but it was like, it wasn't a huge fire because I was not used to doing this. This might have been my first one.
You built, if I remember correctly, you built your fire pit in time so that you could have it for
this ritual. So that might, I might have done one before, but I'm pretty sure that was close to my first fire. And so I didn't know, how long it was going to last and the whole bit. But I know my little fire and we were looking at the screen going, okay, we got something to aspire to, Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
I think one of my favorite images that I have in my mind of you is you barefoot, your drum slung over you, and you're drumming, and the fire is you're between me and the fire.
Oh, this is in
yeah, and you're drumming and you're swaying and you're singing, and the darkness because of the shadow cast because you're between the fire and me. Just it's like such a powerful image.
Oh my gosh!
And I felt like, I just got to witness you in this really beautiful way.
It was gorgeous. Well, first of all, those were bonfires. It wasn't like, these were not our little things. This is a huge group. How many people? Like 100, 150 people. And so they had people who were dedicated fire tenders who came planning on building a specific type of fire. Usually they piled the firewood a certain way. They built actually a structure that reflected that night's ritual, and so it was amazing, and they would feed it all, they would tend it all during the ritual, and in a very magical way, in a very respectful.
I have goosebumps.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Me too. Respectful way, and it was wonderful. And so being a part of that, and I was with a couple of other people whose names I had known for a long time, but had never met, and I was drumming with them. So that was also cool. But that whole experience, because first of all, we're in the can I say the Mendocino? We're in the Mendocino woodlands, and so it's cold as fuck once the sun goes down.
Summer.
It's
but
summer,
it is not
but
summer.
But some people are dancing around in the nude, but they're dancing around in the nude. I'm standing one place with my sweater on.
I'm so torn because I'm like, I want to be naked.
Yeah.
but also it's freezing. And so one of our dear friends, we're always like, it's for the goddess, it's for the goddess, and then we're like taking off the clothes and we're dancing and like, come get the fire.
Yeah, once you dance,
get the fire, get the fire.
Oh yeah. It's always, it's a negotiation.
It really is.
So, but it was just so amazing because that whole experience to me is summed up in the sound and the heat and the imagery of that fire, and then there's also whatever else is going on, but that's such a huge part of that. And so tell me, how does one start a huge fire like that?
I know, I teased you with like, I wanted to share this experience. I had the it was just such an opportunity. I'm so grateful. One of the fire tenders gave a lesson on how they ritualistically start the fires, and so a small group of us got to learn. And I had never done it before, but the idea of, they taught us like how to take the wood and to pull it apart so that it's like soft and fluffy, making the fire starter, and then with flint and steel, striking the flint and having the spark come off, and then the spark. So I'm gonna get emotional. It's just like holding. So I'm holding this, like what I would describe as like a nest in my hand that I've like pulled the wood apart to make this like pulp, and then we strike the flint and like one of the the spark flies off and hits, and then comes an ember, and then they taught us how to coax that ember into like the nest of materials that is in my hand, and then I'm cupping it. And I bring it to my face and I'm blowing into it. I mean, this is just so elemental, right? So now we're there. And I'm like, I'm blowing into it. And then the most magical thing where I just about lost my shit was I was blowing in, and then smoke starts pouring out of between my fingers.
Oh,
I know. Like, I have goosebumps right now. Like, as I'm holding it, because it's starting to, it's not burning yet, but it's starting that process. And I'm holding it, and I'm like, like part of me is like afraid of the power of fire, and part of me is just like fangirl. So I'm breathing into it. The smoke is pouring out, and then I start gently breathing into it, and then the smoke turns into a small flame. And then I took that, and there are other people doing this, and then we like offered it to the wood that we had already stacked, and then we're all kneeling, which is just like a beautiful sacred image, and then we're blowing into like our little fires to light, and it was just
oh my god, that's math. Magical as fuck.
Magical as fuck.
Math. What?
I don't know. We're making it up ourselves. They can do whatever we want.
Wow. But just the image I'm seeing you holding that, and just like the smoke kind of encompassing your hands.
It was so beautiful and powerful, and it just, I felt so connected to ancestors who have done that, and then even so, then I think like how spoiled, how lucky am I that I can turn on my stove or turn on my microwave or adjust my thermostat and have fire. But to do that, and it was hard. It was hard getting it to work. How lucky I am. But then also like the flint and the steel is also like not the way that it first started. There are harder ways. Jeez.
Oh yeah, you can do the
stick rubbing or
with the cord or something, and then you can get like, I did this once in some camp where you take your eyeglasses off and you focus the sun on something.
Jeez.
That, you know how long that takes? I
I
guess I'm not blind enough. I needed thicker glasses or something. Yeah. So there are harder ways, but that idea, I think you need to have a workshop and teach us.
I was thinking it'd be cool to have a retreat around it. I was like, how can I build a ritual and or retreat around this experience so we could all do it?
Wow, because that whole idea of the spark, that's the initiator, right? That's the idea, the impulse, the desire, and then we have to work at. I mean, first of all we have to work to kind of figure out what's best for us. So I'm already making this the metaphor for our lives. Right?
Let's do it.
We can do it. Anyone who is any of our listeners, or maybe just our Patreon people. Okay. No. Sorry, not to be exclusive.
Anyway. So I think one of the biggest takeaways I want to kind of end and leave with our listeners is that these are our personal associations and practices with fire. And I think especially with fire, out of all of the elements, it can be kind of the most like
individual.
It can be the most. I'm gonna start.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I think one of the things I'd like to leave as a takeaway with our listeners is that these are our personal practices with fire. Mm-hmm. These are our own associations with it, and I think fire can be one of the hardest things to access in some ways for a private individual practice, a solitary witch. But just because you can't have a giant cauldron or a giant bonfire going in your backyard, you know, maybe you live in an apartment, it doesn't mean that you're not as magical or it's not as powerful. So lighting that candle or looking at, like you mentioned, looking at those pictures or rubbing my hands together to generate that, or holding my hands in front of my mouth and feeling that heat. Those can be just as magical. So
totally.
So like I would suggest, you know, pulling the judgment back on that and just allowing whatever way fire manifests and is available to you, whether it be the sun or a flame or a candle, embracing that and moving with that.
I totally agree. And the thing about, one of the things that I just hear in our conversation is just the two different ways that, I mean, there's two people here and we have these totally different kind of relationships with, some things overlap obviously, but relationships with fire. And if we had 20 people in this room, we'd have 20 different ones. And so I would encourage anyone who hasn't yet explored this or wants to explore it further is to just to make this their own and not try to do what I do or what Leilani does, to really, you know, sit down and figure out what it means for you and how it powers you and how it can be a part of your life. So we're going to read a poem by Psalm Pollock, and that's spelled like a biblical psalm, and I'll also put her name in the tags. She is a professional writer, and she also does copywriting. Obviously she writes poetry, and it seems like a lot of her focus is on helping people to become better writers, and very much into, a lot of her stuff is about human potential. So this poem is Slowly I Turn into Fire. Gradually I turn into fire, the fire of focus burning all the way through me, turning me into a lightning rod bearing the wisdom that's innate to me, burning through the what ifs, should be's, and all the maybes, burning through the bullshit, game playing, and what's restrained me. Slowly, I'm turning into the fire of purpose, and it becomes me. Lights me up from inside until I am made clean, setting flames to my limitations until I become me. And me is a pseudonym for the mighty. Me is a pseudonym for I can see. Me is a pseudonym for the holy.
Slowly, I turn into fire because purpose ignites me. Slowly, I turn into fire because I was sent to help others be free. I am a rebel and a prophet, and I'll help you believe in the truthful paradox that defines and sets the line between who is genuine and who is lying, who is hateful and who is divine, who is a sorcerer and who is caught in their mind.
Slowly, we are learning the difference between the truthful and our thoughts, and the secret, let's not keep it, because it frees us when we speak it. Our blood pumping, moving atoms into space, embracing every trace between two bodies, we are connected through these invisible waves.
And fire should somehow make you bigger, the smoke that fills the room reaching more corners than before you lit her, transforming something hard and dark and cold into a hard hitter. This is not the fire that leaves destruction in its wake. It is a fire that warms the room and forces those who are sleeping to stir and wake, to move their restless bones and find the courage now to shake the fear and paralysis and overanalysis that is the signature of the powerless, making us stronger as we realize this is our responsibility and we have the ability to affect change.
Incredible poem. I really love the imagery of her words.
May fire bring you all of these things in whatever way it is that you're wanting to ignite or burn or warm or destroy or create.
Or charge or empower.
But thank you for joining us as we journey through the 4 elements in this first installment with fire.
Thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!